Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons Intellectual Property's current decision to abandon the Brazilian language for print. So there's a few more Brazilian D&D canon hardbacks coming out. I think it's Fizban's and two others. But after that, Dungeons & Dragons as an intellectual property has announced that it will no longer print Dungeons & Dragons canon hardbacks going forward in Portuguese. And this specifically impacts Brazil, because Brazil doesn't have its own language. It speaks Portuguese. But by dropping Portuguese, this really abandons this distinct community where these books are being sold in Brazil, right? What does this mean for the Dungeons & Dragons community, and what does this mean for the literal earth, right? The world, right? All right. Hey, I'm Scott Garibay. I have this incredibly unique view of Dungeons & Dragons that I am presenting to the world, and I'm asking the world to adopt it because I believe it, in my humble opinion, it's the truth, okay? And I think what most people think about Dungeons & Dragons is fundamentally wrong and is foolishness, right? Which is, Dungeons & Dragons is a game, Scott. It's foolishness. It's a ridiculous statement only believed by fools, in my humble opinion, right? And the reason why is there's just mounting evidence every single day that Dungeons & Dragons is far more a game than a game. In the 2023 D&D Direct, Joe Manganiello literally said, I'm having elevated conversations with people who have transformed their lives with Dungeons & Dragons and subsequently the culture around them. Like literally saying Dungeons & Dragons is used to transform people's lives and the culture, right? Well, what I'm saying is that this language drop is Gary Gygax speaking from the grave, his legacy speaking today, and doing for a nation what it does for individual humans every single day right now in America. So I believe that Gary Gygax created the greatest tool for human improvement ever created. It's essentially I believe that, so Christians have a sacred text, right? And it helps them live their lives, and it helps them improve themselves, and it helps them transform themselves, and it gives them salvation, right? I believe Gary Gygax in 1974 wrote a secular canon, right? Something that would help every human that read it to improve themselves and transform themselves. It cannot save them. It cannot save them. It's not a sacred text. It's a secular text. I think Dungeons & Dragons, the PHB, the DMG, the MM, is the first secular text, right? And so if you believe that, if you understand that, right, you understand that Dungeons & Dragons' purpose is to improve and transform people individually, okay? I thought that there was a limit of what Gary could accomplish. I was wrong. The announcement of the dropping of Portuguese is Gary Gygax specifically saying, yes, I do absolutely, in my humble opinion, it's him speaking from the grave, saying, yeah, of course, every day I transform lives. I help people improve themselves. I am the most powerful way for any secular human to improve their life and transform themselves into something more, right? But I didn't stop at individuals. I persist to nations, right? And so Dungeons & Dragons, which is Gary Gygax's legacy, saying, Portuguese, you guys don't get a book. You're done. I'm not going to do anymore. And the reason why is Teos Abadia on Mastering Dungeons explained this. He said, the reason they're dropping, and I think he's right, the core reason they're dropping Portuguese as a language is that in Brazil, if you try to buy a D&D canon hardback today and you're a Brazilian citizen, it'll take 1/6 of your monthly income. So you probably aren't going to be able to eat or pay rent or support people you support, right? Like that is a huge amount, right? Like I am routinely, spending $70 to $80 every time a D&D canon hardback. I'm sorry, $70 to $100 every time a D&D canon hardback drops. Okay, you following that? That's not 1/6. That's not even remote. That's not even close to 1/6 of my monthly salary, right? So basically, Gary Gygax is like, Brazil, you got to get good, right? Your economy is, you as a government, your Brazilian, you Brazilian people have chosen leaders that have made your economy so weak, you cannot buy D&D canon hardbacks. You cannot do it, right? At a rate which is sustainable for Hasbro D&D, right? And because of that, you're out. And so essentially he is saying, hey, of course, when you sit down, when a person sits down and puts ink and signs the social contract of the character sheet, of the Dungeons & Dragons character sheet, of course they're making a promise to their dungeon master. Of course they're making a promise to every other dragon master at the table, right? All 4 dragon masters at the table. Of course they're making a promise to themselves to invest themselves in that character. Of course they're making a promise to the player character to manifest it and treat it responsibly and with kindness and tolerance. Of course. But did you think I was just stopping at people? I'm demanding more, and the Dungeons & Dragons character sheet is a demand for you to improve as a person, for you to transform as a person, for you to abandon one identity and move into manifold sentience, right? But Gary didn't stop there. He's like, America, you guys are doing great, fantastic, great job. Brazil, no, get good. Your economy's trash, right? You have chosen leaders that have done nothing for you and made it so that your average citizen literally can't afford my books, right? Like, and so because of that, you guys need to improve as a nation. So the best way, in my humble opinion, to understand the dropping of the Portuguese language is a challenge from the grave to Gary Gygax saying, Brazil, your government sucks. Your leaders suck. Brazilian people, you have chosen suck leaders. You have put into place a suck government. Get good. Do more. Improve. Transform. Copy America. Right? Or actually, not even copy America. Do liberty and freedom in your own way. But stop all this nonsense of bad government. And I'm not even going to take the time to insult and say what I think is the bad elements in Brazil's government, right? They need to get good. They need to make it so that it doesn't break an average citizen just to buy one D&D canon hardback, right? It is Gary Gygax looking at a nation and saying, it's not enough. You have failed. Do better. That is my humble opinion. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. What's important is when I hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider subscribing and have a wonderful millennium.